Thank you, Irene Lopez de Vallejo, to be here in this interview in the book launch time of the book Innovation and Collaboration in the Digital Era. And because you are in the book, you have an interview in the page 19 in the first chapter about decentralization of knowledge and decentralization of innovation.
Yeah.
So welcome, Irene, to this interview.
Thank you, Jara.
The first question is super basic, but it's very important to say, what is knowledge decentralization and decentralization of innovation?
So we've been discussing this. I mean, for everybody that is watching us, hopefully, we've been talking about these things for a few years now, since we met, actually, Jara, you remember. Yeah. And I've been involved with 3 initiatives for the last 5 years. And this was something that when talking about ecosystem creation and collaboration versus competition in that type of environments, we were talking about, well, actually, what about knowledge decentralization? So we are building infrastructures for a future, the future of the internet that are decentralized in essence, but actually what goes through it is data. But what it goes through it as well is knowledge. So if knowledge can travel through those networks, it means that the decentralization of knowledge is a fact today. Decentralization also implies that lack of, so the geography is less important than it was before. And taking into account that the people, knowledge is inside people's heads. How do you get it out in ways that are also open and that you can share that knowledge in trusted ways? Now, innovation, decentralization, it's slightly different, but obviously it goes associated. You can these days innovate and create new things with people that are pretty much anywhere in the planet, and that is an internet thing, obviously, yeah. But how previously isolated ecosystems or groups of people that work together in new ways can now be accessed, and the information and ideas can be exchanged in a much more efficient way and much more open way. So you are not bound by what you have around you, walking distance or commuting distance, but you can actually interact with groups that are pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's coming like if the knowledge is decentralized already, and knowledge is the basis for innovation, is like naturally the innovation is decentralized.
Yes.
So, and we have to accept and how we can bring people together in this environment, and to accept like it's already like this, how we can connect all the ecosystems to create innovation, not to isolate them, but to connect them. And now with the digital transition, this has to be the experimentations to find these new ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I think that, while there are many parts of the, say, first world, let's read Europe, for example, that are very backwards and are not very, up to use this type of technologies or this type of thinking, because a lot is about attitude, and I'm sure we will talk more about that. It's about the attitude, the culture, how do you perceive this type of opportunities, yes. Not as threats, as opportunities. But what I'm witnessing within the environment where I'm moving now, the whole DISCO, which is distributed cooperative organizations, and how to develop new organizations that actually leverage this type of thinking in this type of technologies. The beauty of it is that now the access, I mean, it's truly global. Anybody that is doing something in a remote corner of the globe can actually, if they want to, they can connect in these new ways, and that's very important as well. So we are not bound by what we know and what we are exposed to, read in our case, Europe. But actually you get access to all sorts of different environments that are going through very similar problems but tackling them with a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
It's really it's enriching, it's enlightening.
Yeah, it's a part of the positive side of the collaboration versus competition. It's like we can learn from each other. And when we can leverage diversity of opinions and knowledge and ways of thinking is when you channel much better and effective the innovation as well.
Absolutely.
So why is so powerful to think of innovation ecosystems? Because there is a lot of like, what is innovation ecosystem? How, and everyone is not in the same street, Why is so powerful to think in that way?
You're asking the wrong person, because I've always thought that collaboration was much better than flying solo. That's the way I believe. That's the way I operate as a person. Yeah, for me, you have to add to others, so you have to bring something hopefully good, to others, and to work in collaboration with others, and that's the way I operate. So for me, naturally, I don't think that you can come up with new ideas on your own. I believe that we are all little kind of like melting pots of ideas and inputs, and our brains sort of like go through it, and and with different solutions, ideas, proposals, whether you are very practical or you are very intellectual, and you like to think more than act, but in both ways it needs to be through iteration and working with others in collaboration, and collaboration as in taking that everybody has something interesting potentially to say. Mm-hmm. So not in a relationship of misunderstood power dynamics where I know more than you know less than me, I have more money, you have less, you are, so for collaboration for me is that tabula rasa that allows people to behave comfortably, feel safe, and to come together and help each other.
Yeah, and this is the psychological safety environment you have to create, and respect. I think it's about the values, and to set up the values from the beginning. Well, in this code, you are working and investigating this area, but it's super important to think in that way. And ecosystems is coming very natural if you have this mindset of collaboration.
The mindset is so important. The how do you, if you are educated to be to think only about yourself, and to start your business, to to live, to behave, that makes more difficult to build a collective collaborative culture. And you can see that in different parts of the world. I mean, there are places where you go, regions, I'm not going to say countries, but regions where you can see that, people are just like more, open, helpful, and that's where beautiful things happen. I believe that it is by groups of people coming together to do something that you can change things, you can change realities, economic realities, social realities, and innovation realities. An innovation ecosystem in the end is a group of legally and geographically separated organizations that are have very similar interests, or can align their interests to make wherever they are operating, the space they are operating, whether it is physical, virtual, a better place.
Totally. It's always to have a positive impact altogether. So you have to have a strong vision why we are all here.
Which is very difficult to get to. So sometimes it emerges, out of some, say, natural disaster or local crisis. People come together, and in other cases, it's a lot more rational. It's like, okay, there is an opportunity, business opportunity here. We need to come together and use it. The difficult part is identify that catalyzing point where an innovation ecosystem actually starts to be a real thing. And just to be clear, Jara, and I'm sure you agree with me, of course, it doesn't have to be only a business thing. So it doesn't have to be just kind of like an economic opportunity. It can be many other things. The opportunity can be different from.
Yeah, and as well, not only technology. I think the part of always looking at innovation as technology or business driven, like innovation is creating value from creativity. So here
Absolutely.
it's like very open, the statement of any kind of creativity, any kind of value you provide. So I think we have to be more open-minded in the sense of what is innovation for us and define, and not always thinking about flying cars, or deep tech. Like sometimes it's maybe the evolution of the human being in the next chapter is more psychological. Maybe it's more mindset. Maybe it's more social. It's more values. And this is not only taking care of the planet, but as a whole, as humanity. And this is seen less important, like technology. And this is maybe one of the issues. Like we have to think. There are books of science fiction, like innovation geeks. Sometimes they like science fiction. Like if you see the underline, it's not about technology, but psychology of mindset and how humanity treats each other. And we see always like other human beings in other planets much more intelligent, emotional intelligence sometimes, like we are. And we reflect this as a science fiction, when maybe as a human beings we can go in this direction ourselves.
Completely agree. I mean, I think I think you are talking about care, and how in many cases the things that we do to care and to look after each other and to look after our environment and our organizations and our innovation ecosystems is invisible. That's the type of invisible work activity that people don't recognize, but care and support rules the world. And in innovation is essential. From the very prosaic, like super business oriented or capitalist oriented mentorship programs. I mean, you've been a mentor, I've been a mentor for free. I've offered my time and my
that's another story, Irene.
Yeah, no, but that is I mean, care. Why did you do that? You do it because you want to help others. Yeah, you've been there, you've done that, you failed, you come, helping others, helping the community, helping the ecosystem. But that you look at organizations, it is the same. In many organizations, that type of a collaborative spirit, looking after the others, making sure that everybody gets the information in time, channels of communication are open. Yeah, that's care. And those care activities, care related activities, are
this orchestration as well of the
and the more administrative, bureaucratic part of all these orchestration, communication practices, but also support, as in, I'm not going to be your best friend, but I'm here to help you to do your job in the best way I can and have a good relationship. Those things are not visible, they're not explicit. When you go to a job interview or when you set up a company, you don't think of counting that type of practices or making them obvious. And I believe they do run, they are underneath the most successful kind of like business practices that we've seen today, and the most successful innovation ecosystems. I don't think you can start designing or encouraging an ecosystem just with money. Money is super important, obviously.
It's about leadership. And sometimes leadership is super invisible, but when it's not there, it's very visible.
But not leadership as in, I mean, depending on what type of leadership, but is that
it's not dark side of leadership, we can say more light side of the leadership.
Call it whatever you want, but it's very important, and it needs to be more present in this type of innovation, decentralized knowledge, collaboration, next generation infrastructures. We cannot leave the people, and we cannot leave mental state and the psychological aspects of work and innovation like forgotten, because they are what kind of like turns the wheels and makes and feeds the whole process. Trust. People talk a lot about trust.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, trust, and we're going to use these technologies that are absolutely fine.
But this is not
really
trust.
Agree. But you cannot code trust, and you cannot code care. So that's up to the people. And that's, I think, where we got it wrong in the last 10, 20, 50 years of technological development. Care first, and trust comes with care. So
if we are going to the collaborations inside the innovation ecosystems, so how do you foster these collaborations for innovation inside the innovation ecosystem?
I think it's that's where the comments that we were discussing is the culture, is the actually how do you promote a culture of innovation, of openness, of let's trust each other, let's do this thing on a win-win, with a win-win attitude, and with a I'm going to look after you if you fall. I have your back. It's that type of thing, and that translates into practices. Having very clear governance practices or rules of behavior that people follow, and they know that if they don't follow them, they're going to be in some way reprimanded by the group. Yeah, we are human beings. We operate under the kind of like unspoken rules of behavior. I think that's why all the we hear a lot about governance in the decentralized Web3 circles, because the top projects globally have realized that without clear governance, not only supported by the technology, which is great, but decided and agreed first and foremost by the groups of people that are coming together. And that can be either in an organization or across an ecosystem of innovation.
Yeah, it's like, it's a lot of the philosophy of freedom versus rules. And I think this is super interesting on the sea, like your freedom finishes when the other freedom starts. And I think here the values are very important. Like to set up, it's not only about rules or norms to frame, but we are here to do this. This is the code of conduct. Like we have to respect each other. We have some lines we cannot cross. And how the community knows and is working in this direction. I think this is very important as well. When you see misbehaving, like you can speak up, because sometimes now in the culture it will create a very toxic culture very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, there is here a conflict. How we run through the conflict, it's not like we have tons of rules, but how you manage the people and the situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said so. I mean, it's having frameworks and protocols for an open, trusted communication, for non-violent communication. So understand, how can you say something that people might not want to hear? And building those safe spaces where you can actually talk about your problems, your situation, because we all go through situations. And what I've experienced, and I'm sure you haven't, if people are still with us, will probably have experiences. You cannot say what you think in the workplace. It's not well. So you cannot say, I've had a family death. I've had, I have a problem with my partner. I'm concerned about my daughter. I don't know. And that is kind of like, brush it off, just your problems, leave them at home. Yes, of course. But
it's affecting your productivity and work and relationships, everything.
Exactly. So, people need to understand that is also legit, and you can speak up about those things. So things like daily check-ins. It can be virtual, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just to understand what, you know, how are you? Yeah, so that people is like, oh, interesting, you know, I might just like go on and say hello and have a chat. You can actually structure those practices. And
yeah, it's in the part of emotional intelligence. And we have one canvas in the book. It's about emotional intelligence canvas for teams.
yeah.
So how you discuss these topics? What is your mood today? What are you feeling now? And then a vocabulary of emotions to understand. And emotional intelligence is helping you, okay, to be aware of how you are feeling, to understand why you are sad today. Yeah. Oh, okay, but has not to be a therapy group. It's like very in the superficial, but it's helping so much the team. And then in the canvas, you have the how to manage conflict. What are the values of the collaboration? And
absolutely.
after tips like what you have to do if there is a lack of motivation, what you have to do if there is a problem with frustration. And I think this kind of more psychological rules of governance of the team is much more powerful to have this cohesion, like we are here together from different organizations, but here together to make a product better.
Yeah.
And this is the mindset. And to understand, you know, like via the collaboration canvas, the impact. So the impact is the why we are here together. What is the change, the transformation we are making together?
Absolutely.
Why is
absolutely.
the essence of the collaboration?
Yeah. No, I think that's very important, and actually working through things like this, yeah, the collaboration, which I really like it. I mean, I'm right now in the middle of a process with a number of organizations to set up a nonprofit foundation, yeah, and I'm gonna ask them to go through this because conversations have sort of like lost steam. Yeah. So I want us to find a joint purpose, but a real one that can drive us together forward or not. You know, I've been very open.
Yeah, exactly. But then you know very quickly, you know, like yes or no, and you can, okay, next we look for another partner.
Or let's put our effort collectively somewhere else. Yeah. But it's important to air those things because I believe we tend to follow into an inertia. Yeah, we kind of like, it's like, yeah, okay, we'll follow into a rhythm that is taking us nowhere. So actually stop, reflect, think, okay, what are our strengths? What are our, you know, challenges? What can we do together? Why are we the right people to do this? The right organizations? Are we really or not? Yeah. And then move forward, move to the next stage.
Yeah, totally. It's like thinking and taking action, and to have the frameworks to make this happen. So Irene, I would like to ask you the last question because I think it's very important. And now in Europe, like there is this focus of funding for innovation. And I think a lot of small companies, they are now freaking out, you know, because before the funding was more for infrastructure, you know, something we can touch, you know, something we can see. Yeah. And now the funding is going to innovation and for collaboration as well. So you have to work with others to make something together. And they don't know how to do it, but as well it's part of the mindset. So my question to you is how we can help small businesses to innovate with the mindset, you know, what is the mindset they have to have and how to make them the transition to have this mindset, because if not they will struggle and they will lose the opportunity to make the business better and to be relevant for the future.
What can I say? I mean, someone that is building technology would tell us, oh, that is, you know, you just have to take them through, you know, organizational transformation so that they can, you know, adopt these new, you know, technologies. What I would say is what I said before. It's it's those collaboration practices. So if the company doesn't see collaboration changing, modifying, transforming the way they operate towards a more collaborative spirit, they will not take advantage of these opportunities. And if it's not perceived at, let's say, local, regional, European wide level, that collaboration is important, that to innovate, and you have to collaborate across, say, your value chain, yeah, or with your local ecosystem, or go and find talent somewhere else in a distributed manner, in a completely decentralized manner. It's very difficult to make sure that those funds are going to go to the right hands.
Yeah, that's that's not always to the same ones, but to the people they need it. And they don't know now they need it.
No, and with the next generation funds that are, pouring into different, countries in Europe, again, that's one of my concerns. I mean, the money will get distributed, maybe, possibly, most of it, but will it go to the right ecosystems? Will it feed the right type of ideas and practices? And what is
values
the impact?
As well? Values?
No, absolutely. Nobody talks about values. Nobody talks about care. Nobody talks about collaboration as a cultural quality that can be learned. Yeah, is changing mindsets, is safety in mindsets towards a more collaborative way of doing things. We will see. I mean, this goes to also how limiting some of the legal frameworks we are operating under are. And we will see how the new tweaks on the funding allocation mechanisms are going to be working. I don't know. I mean, we will have to see. I'm hopeful, but I've been in this game for so many years that
I know. That's why I am asking you.
I'm a bit skeptical. And I think it's difficult. I don't think that for policy makers and the people that execute, the agencies that execute the funding mechanisms, is very easy for a number of reasons, because they have their priorities are so far away from the real economic reality of organizations. And it's very difficult to do things in a different way, because the systems are quite difficult to move and change and shape. So
I think, but this is the part of, let's translate the fear and the complaints, because I can imagine the small company can have fear as well. Like, I don't speak English. How I will go and tap the door to the university to, and make something out of this. And it takes effort as well. It's the courage, the effort. Nothing is for free. So it's a lot of work. You have to go through this process, and it's painful. So it's very transformational as well, because it's growth. And this is the part, like, bottom up transformation, but as well top bottom, to say, listen, what is happening in reality. And maybe that's the job for you and for me, to open the eyes to everyone in both directions, to say, hey, this is possible. Look at what is happening here. Like, what is the policies we need if we have this vision to understand the reality, and as well to the small companies to really advocate and have tools and mechanisms to advocate this, like, go, and we help you through this process.
But taking into account that small companies are more concerned about making it to the end of the month of paying salaries.
And this is the issue. The small, tiny companies at the end is 99% of the companies in Europe.
So perhaps with an innovation ecosystem, what the role that innovation ecosystems can play is help those small companies to come into, reduce the burden, the bureaucracy, and help those small companies.
How to help them.
And let them do what they are best at, which is whatever their business is, the business model and the product and the services that they provide. Let them do it, and the innovation ecosystem help them to focus on that. There is always a balance.
We will make a plan, Irene, and we send to everyone. Well, thank you very much for this contribution to the book. I think you have not only one interview, you have many quotes of you from other interviews and podcasts. is as well inside the book, along the book, because I think every time you open your mouth, it's like, oh, let me write down.
Oh, flatterer, I like that.
So I think you are present here in this book, and everyone, they can read it, enjoy the read, see the transformation of the mindset while they are going a chapter through chapter, because we are starting with the first chapter where Irene is about decentralization of knowledge, to understand this, because I think this is the main point. Like, it's not, I work with my friend to do innovation because I know him and I am afraid to go out to look for the right partner. And I think we have to understand this, and that's why this chapter 1 is about knowledge decentralization as a consequence after we have innovation decentralized. Thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you, Jara. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. It was a very passionate interview with Irene. And next week we have another one, super interesting, surprise, surprise. But meanwhile, you can order a copy of the book Innovation and Collaboration in the Digital Era on Amazon or on our website shop.collabwith.com. See you next week. Bye.